I've been an active member all the way through my career in Scrutiny, and currently I'm in my 4th year of being chair of Scrutiny board, which has been an interesting passage of time. We can see how Scrutiny's developed, not over the just the 4 years I've been in charge, but the whole 16 years that I've been on the authority, and it is a really vital, important component of non-exec members to be involved with the scrutiny process, because they make recommendations that could change the way that people's lives are affected by the authority within Wolverhampton. So for me, that's the real burning issue for a scrutineer, is how to affect change and how we can move the city forward, but by listening as well as recommendations and talking and negotiating. So that's a key component of scrutiny for me.
My name's Greg Brackenridge. I'm the local councillor for Wentzfield South Ward in Wolverhampton North East. I think we all remember the dreadful footage of the events at Grenfell just over 1 year ago today. So I decided to request through the scrutiny process a scrutiny review in order that we could follow up on all of those issues and be ahead of the game. We wanted Wolverhampton to be at the vanguard of English authorities when it came to fire safety. What we were looking to get out of the review was to learn the lessons that we'd seen in Grenfell. Tenants, as I said, felt that they'd been ignored, so we put them at the heart of the process. But we also wanted to look at the obvious things that we'd seen, the rapid spread of fire across the building, the failure of fire doors, and we wanted to check our structures at the council, ensured that we managed our duty of care correctly and appropriately. The witnesses that we interviewed involved the West Midlands Fire Service. Clearly, they're the fire safety experts, and fire safety is at the heart of everything they do, both through prevention, protection and response agenda. Other agencies include Wolverhampton Homes. It included emergency planning department, so that if it was an issue, what was the council's response like? How effective would it be? Another thing that came clearly out of Grenfell. And were we geared up? Were we ready to go should that happen? We also looked into some of the TMOs, once again Wolverhampton Homes, the OMO, and we invited schools officers and health and safety department also to discuss the issues of fire safety and how we were managing our duty of care. What systems and processes were in place to ensure that we monitored the situation and were able to respond should there be a concern. We've also had a commitment from Wolverhampton Homes to fit sprinklers in all high-rise blocks, which is blocks above 18 metres are considered high-rise. However, we will move on to lower-rise blocks after this, and we'll also move into vulnerable care homes and schools is the next plan. But that commitment of sprinklers is a £29 million commitment over the next 5 years. It was vitally important that the public perception was that we were working, we did care, because we do. And we do not want these issues to happen, not on my watch. There was also rapid inspection and testing of all the materials that have been used on our high-rise blocks and on the fire doors. That is something that has come out of the inquiries, the Morbic and the inquiry into Grenfell and the Hackett report, Dame Judith Hackett report, into building regulations. The involvement between groups is far more solidified now, and the communications between those groups are far greater. And once again, the in-house expertise, which are now being employed by the council and Wolverhampton Homes to challenge those consultants' views on fire safety when we receive those reports.
When all the fire safety work started to commence, I was the Director of Property Services. For me, the work that's been going on behind the scenes is about applying the amount of due diligence to those elements of work that matter. And it's about identifying the operational risks, the management risks, and above all, how the organisation treats those. And, you know, it was really refreshing to see that the council scrutiny members had taken this area of service at such an high level. We've got a huge programme of works going ahead to address some of those concerns which were raised at that scrutiny panel, and it's great that the council are supporting Wolverhampton Homes in delivering some of those packages of works which the members were concerned about. It was overwhelming, and it was quite notable, the knowledge of the scrutiny members and the questioning that they asked about specific areas and components and the work that had actually been ongoing. in the stock of Wolverhampton. I'm pleased that the Scrutiny members have not let this go, and they're continuing to ask questions around this area of work, of which we're looking for the new proposals which come out from the Ministry of Housing to see what and if we have to do any further changes to our investment plans.
From a personal point of view, the achievement for us is how quick now Scrutiny responds. If there's an issue within the city, then we can get down and do some real scrutiny work. We did some important work with partners, with the police, social services, around travellers' incursions, and everybody gets to understand what is each other's role, but what we can do jointly and achieve jointly. So that for me has been really important.
I actually represent Heath Town Ward. This is my third year into chairing the health scrutiny. We did actually get a letter from David Lawton from the Royal Wolverhampton Trust saying he was writing to the MPs about the quota system to allow people to come and work here, health professionals, and that had been reached its limit and no more would be allowed. That meant there were 23 people he had recruited but wouldn't be able to then come and train to be health professionals. Not just the Labour Party, but the Conservative Party as well joined hands together and wrote a letter supporting David that the quota be lifted, and we didn't know what to expect, but we did actually get a response a few months later to saying that this would be lifted to allow these professionals to come and train here and provide care in the community. So that was very pleasing, the impact that we had. And another area is the dental care. We did a review how things were going on, and what we discovered was that care in the homes and nursing homes, that it needed to be improved, and the nursing staff then were trained up to actually provide better hygiene dental care, so that would help the patient to eat, be able to chew, and improve their quality of life.
Everything that the authority does is resource rich. By nature of taking care and caring for citizens across our city, it's going to be rich because we're so diverse, which is welcomed, but we need to make sure that we're adequately resourced, either it be in each individual department, but actually for the whole authority it needs to be resourced properly, and we need to have it direct from central government, is my opinion. You know, people have a contrary view to that, but I think that it's too important for us to rely on, you know, what is the next fad within local government or the next fad within national government. We need to have deep roots and good foundations that have set in, and that only comes by having the resource. But with that comes the responsibility of spending that resource adequately in the right places. So that is another key role of scrutiny. So that needs for us to be on our game at all levels of scrutiny. So as we're getting the best for our citizens and delivering the best, you know, I think we've got a good track record of delivery. We've got some developments. We need. I think all authorities need that resource to be put in by central government, so as we can all catch our breath and see exactly where we are and see what needs to be resourced adequately. But scrutiny needs to be resourced, because without scrutiny, then I don't think you get the best conversations that bring out the best results, that get the best recommendations. And again, it's about developing that partnership.
Well, my current role is that I'm the Cabinet Lead for Education and Skills, newly appointed really since May. And prior to that, and I think the reason why we're talking to one another, I was privileged really to chair a scrutiny review of adult mental health services in Wolverhampton. Indeed, some of us thought we knew that there was a gap in terms of the mental health services available for adults in our city, and the expressed need. There was more need than there was service, and we wanted to look at what we do as a council, and that turned out to be more complex than we thought, in that it wasn't just about a lump of money for a voluntary organisation. That is part of it, but there were also other more complex threads, if you like, through housing, employment, there's other services that we deliver. So there was a learning process really to say to ourselves, well, yes, we can see that all needs are not being met. On the other hand, we need to credit the council where possible, because in fact services were a little bit better than we'd thought to start with. We could meet people who use third sector services, we could meet agencies providing third sector and other services, and we had some kind of standing in order to say we are very interested in what you do and we will record your evidence and it will finalise our report. So the opportunity to meet with a range of different people, not least members of the public, users of the service who were the most informative, was immense. And indeed, as scrutiny officers, we were supplied with a good deal of reading so that we felt as if we were becoming better informed. Definitely the user voice from the Council for Voluntary Service. We went there and we heard from people who were very explicit and quite touching in their experiences, in that they demonstrated to us that you have to get really very, very unwell indeed before you can clamber into the loop of mental health service delivery. And that seemed to me to be very striking and really quite serious, because preventative services shouldn't allow people to come to that kind of crisis. That was immensely useful, because I'm not sure that otherwise I would have got to know those young people who had extremely relevant things to say, but were reflecting a group of people that we haven't particularly looked at because it was a piece of work around adults. But they did mirror our concerns, they most certainly did. And the interesting thing is that some of those members have still kept in touch with me, and in my new role as education and skills lead, I've been able to maintain those relationships. But their perspective was well informed, it was very current and very passionate.
The Youth Council's been very positive because we've been able to make differences in the youth,
and we have like scrutiny boards where we talk to councillors about what we think should improve.
I'd say on Youth Council, one of the biggest achievements that I've had is obviously being a part of these scrutiny reviews.
but I didn't know that we could get a say in anything, so that's been changed.
The Youth Council has kind of made it clear to the leaders of the city that we want a change.
We've done some vast, huge things. We've done, apprenticeships. We've also done work with mental health. And what's been important is we've encouraged and incorporated the Youth Council have took an active role within that. That's been really important, because we need to make plans for the future. We need to look at the past to see where we've come from, where we are now, but we need to make sure that we look to the future so as we can make the city better.
My name is Martin Wade. I'm Councillor for Penn Ward, and I'm the chair of the Vibrant and Sustainable City Scrutiny Panel. So as we all know, the council's making some wide-ranging changes to refuse collection this year, and the panel will be helping the cabinet member and the senior officers get the decisions right and essentially implement the changes to the best of our ability. We've already been out on a site visit to the so-called super tip, the suggested location of the super tip, and that really brought to life what the idea is and how it might work if we go ahead with that. So members of the panel are asking the cabinet member and senior officers that have the responsibility for delivering the changes to the service questions around that they're concerned that they might not have considered, feedback that councillors have been getting from residents around their own thoughts around how it might affect them. So it's a case of trying to identify any areas of thinking that hasn't been thought yet, or any risks that the senior management team haven't considered. So we do that through asking questions and raising concerns and looking for responses from officers and the cabinet member around how those concerns might be addressed, and if they haven't been already addressed, how they can take those concerns away and respond to them. We haven't finished our work yet by any means. and we'll be revisiting the changes to the service later on in the year to make sure that once the implementation has been completed, that the implementation has worked properly and that any kind of snagging issues, if you like, have been identified and can be resolved.
I'm Councillor Linda Leach for Bilston North. Within the Council, I am Chair of the Labour Group. Also, I am Chair of the Adults and Safer City Scrutiny Panel. One of the issues that we scrutinised was on tackling modern slavery. West Midlands Police gave us evidence of work they were doing. My role of the Chair is to encourage the panel to discuss concerns and to ask the police and partners questions on their work. It is up to the scrutiny panel to hold the police, council and partners to account, making sure they are delivering. The police encourage people to report complaints if they feel uncomfortable about a situation. You could be in a restaurant or a nail bar or having your car washed, for example. You may feel something or someone is not being treated right. The police want you to report these concerns. Another important area of work for scrutiny is to raise awareness about different issues. For example, the help and support available to help people with Alzheimer's. I am pleased with the work being done by the Council and voluntary sector. It is an important area of scrutiny, looking at issues of concern to residents and working with partners to find practical solutions. The Police and Crime Commissioner has accepted an invitation to attend our next meeting, which is the 26th of September at 6 p.m, to talk about his work and his priorities. The meeting will be used to hold the Commissioner to account and raise local public concerns about crime and public safety.
Scrutiny is about grassroots up. Backbench members raising issues that they are passionate about and drilling down deep into the information in order to find out the real detail of what we're doing and how we're delivering it, and can it be improved. And you will always find improvements. You'll always find things that you do well also as an organisation.
Scrutiny is a very important role because it helps us support and challenge the Council and partners where necessary. I would recommend that all councillors take all the training that is on offer and to speak to the scrutiny officers regular about issues that may concern them and ask questions no matter how small. The questions are all important.
So I would say to new councillors, see yourself as an expert, use the existing resources, because in Wolverhampton we do have a strong scrutiny team, there's no doubt about that. There is the expertise. I'd like to think that they were well respected in the wider corporate community, but we certainly have those people as a resource, and my experience has been that the team were very, very supportive, very informative, and they helped me do a job really quite well.
As a backbench councillor, scrutiny is your opportunity to have your say, if you like, in the way that services are shaped and delivered. That perhaps you might not necessarily get when you're outside of the cabinet. So it is where you can, I've said it before about making a difference, but as an individual backbench councillor, it's where you can genuinely make a difference.
The more that you put into scrutiny, the more that you'll get out, the more that you feel that you've accomplished stuff. What we want from the new members and from longer standing members is to bring the issues of the day to the forefront, utilise the resource that's there with officers and the expertise, then come with decisions and conversations so as we can develop the policies.